We often study the history of slavery through the lens of politics, morality, and social impact. But there is another, more chilling record, the financial one. In the brutal reality of slave societies, human beings were reduced to a single, stark category, property. And like any property, they had a price. But what was the price of a person? The answer is not simple, because the cost of a human life varied wildly across time and place, revealing a dark and precise calculus of human value based on age, strength, skill, and even the whims of the market. Today, we are opening the ledger books of history to understand the economics of slavery, converting ancient prices into modern dollars to comprehend the true cost of a human life in the slave trade. Our story begins in the ancient world. In ancient Rome, during the height of the Republic, a strong, young, unskilled male slave, ideal for farm labor or the galleys, could cost around 2,000 sesterces. To put that in perspective, a Roman legionary's annual salary was about 900 sesterces. So, a slave cost more than 2 years of a soldier's pay. But prices escalated with skill. An educated Greek slave who could serve as a tutor, secretary, or doctor could fetch 8,000 sesterces or more. A beautiful young woman for domestic or sexual servitude could cost 6,000 sesterces. In today's money, adjusting for the value of silver and wages, a basic Roman slave could cost anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 in modern U.S. dollars, while a skilled slave could be the equivalent of a luxury car or house today. Moving forward to the Ottoman Empire, the most famous slaves were the Janissaries, Christian boys taken through the devshirme system. Their cost was not a purchase price, but a long-term investment in training and indoctrination, making them priceless to the state. However, in the markets of Istanbul, a strong male for manual labor might cost 40 to 50 gold coins. A skilled female domestic slave could cost 60 to 70. But the most expensive were the Circassian women from the Caucasus, renowned for their beauty, who could fetch prices equivalent to a high-ranking official's annual income. Converting Ottoman gold coins, a typical slave might cost the modern equivalent of $15,000 to $25,000. The most documented and industrialized slave economy was the antebellum American South. Here, the market was ruthlessly efficient. In the early 1800s, a prime field hand, a healthy young man in his late teens or early 20s, could be purchased for about $500. By the 1850s, as the cotton boom intensified and the import of new slaves was banned, that same man's price had skyrocketed to $1,200, $1,500, or even more. To understand this in modern terms, we can't just adjust for inflation. $500 in 1850 is about $20,000 today. That's misleading. A better measure is relative income. In 1850, $1,500 was more than twice the average annual income of a free American. In today's terms, that would be like spending over $150,000 to $200,000 on a single worker, an enormous capital investment that explains the fierce economic defense of slavery. The price was never uniform. Slave traders had a precise, brutal checklist: age and health. A prime-aged adult, 18 to 25, was the most expensive. The very young and the very old were cheapest, often sold in lots or as dependencies. Skill. A blacksmith, carpenter, or cook could be 50 to 100% more expensive than a field hand. An enslaved midwife or a driver who oversaw other slaves commanded a premium. Gender. Men were often priced higher than women for their brute strength. However, a breeding woman or a young woman forced into concubinage could also command a very high price. Defects. Scars from whippings lowered the price, as they suggested a rebellious nature. A chronic cough or physical disability could slash the value by half or more. The most poignant price was the one an enslaved person had to pay for their own freedom, their own purchase price. Enslaved people who managed to save money often through skilled labor on their one free day, Sunday, could attempt to buy their own freedom or that of their family members. This created a cruel paradox. The more skilled and valuable you were, the higher the price for your own liberty. A blacksmith who could have bought his freedom for $500 in 1820 might have seen his price rise to $1,500 by 1850, forcing him to watch his dream of freedom recede no matter how hard he worked. This system trapped generations in a cycle of hope and despair. While we can calculate the price of a slave in historical currencies and modern equivalents, the true cost was and is immeasurable. It was paid in generations of stolen lives, severed families, and profound trauma that echoes to this day. The ledgers and price tags we've examined are more than economic data. They are artifacts of a system that attempted to quantify the unquantifiable, the value of a human being. The history of slave prices is not just a history of economics, it is a history of how a society justified turning people into property, and a stark reminder of the enduring legacy of that calculation. If this deep and difficult look into the economics of history's greatest injustice was impactful, please subscribe to the Footcast. We are committed to exploring the full, unvarnished truth of our past. What other difficult histories should we examine with this level of detail? Let us know in the comments below. Share this video to ensure these stories are not forgotten. Thanks for watching.